Have you ever looked south of Dallas and noticed the tiniest little town surrounded by green along I-35? Okay, I hear you saying, no, Wendy, this Metroplex is huge and I haven't happened to notice humble little Red Oak. Well, that's fair, but this cool little town deserves our attention. It has great highway access, and yet it's surrounded by beautifully undeveloped land owned by Ellis County. You talk about not being landlocked. It's essentially isolated from Lancaster to the north and Waxahachie to the south, with plenty of wide open land in between. As little and as obscure as it may seem, I think Red Oak deserves our attention. Cue the intro. Hi everyone, my name is Wendy Pinnell and I am a realtor and a broker with On Track Realty, but more importantly, I'm your Move to Texas guide. Today, let's talk a bit about the town that just doesn't seem to get the attention it deserves. Let's talk about Red Oak. Okay, first things first, Red Oak is located south of Dallas on I-35E. It's in northern Ellis County, which puts it right around like 20 minutes south of Dallas and 30 minutes southeast of Fort Worth. Now, of course, we have to hear a little about the history of Red Oak, just because, okay? In 1844, Colonel James Patton and his family settled on Red Oak Creek. Now, side note here, Red Oak was named for Red Oak Creek, which of course was named for all the beautiful red oak trees along its banks. Anyway, on July 25, 1847, James Patton founded the first church in the area. Shortly thereafter, the first store was built, which incidentally was also the first post office. In 1909 and again in 1919, Red Oak nearly burned to the ground. But finally, in 1949, Red Oak was legally incorporated as a city. So what did that look like? Well, I'm not entirely sure what the city limits were then, but today, Red Oak is very sprawling and spread out. Like you literally have these sprawling tendrils of red oak with all this open space in between. Okay, I really need to show you what I am talking about here. Here are some examples of towns in the Red Oak area. Here we have a map of DeSoto. Do you see how cohesive that is? Then we move further south and we see Glen Heights, and it still kind of has that boxy shape. Now, take a look at Red Oak. Crazy, right? The city is seriously spread out all over the place. The downside to that is Red Oak is really dependent on its roads to keep connected. And unfortunately, many say that the roads aren't maintained that great. If you think about it, that makes sense because it's a small town with a small population and it's spread out way more than most. Now, the upside to that is those little tendrils are surrounded by beautiful undeveloped land. Although you have to ask yourself, who owns all those tracts of land in and around Red Oak? The answer? Ellis County. If you look on Google Maps, you'll see tract after tract of land owned just by the county. It could be really interesting to see what Ellis County has planned for that area, and it could affect Red Oak in a big way. Okay, but enough speculation. Let's move on to the good stuff. How big is Red Oak? How fast is it growing? Well, Red Oak has always been a small town, but from 2000 to 2010, the population increased from 4,300 to around 10,700. Then from 2010 through 2020, it really took off, and it's continued to outpace the growth of both the United States, the state of Texas, and Ellis County. The population in Red Oak has increased from 10,700 in the year 2010 to 14,700 in the year 2020, resulting in a growth of around 73%. One thing to know about Red Oak that kind of relates to this is it's master plan friendly. Now, with master plan subdivisions, you're going to get a lot of houses, and with a lot of houses, you're going to get a lot of growth. The big question is, how are the schools handling all that growth? So, let's talk about education. Red Oak ISD is rated in the top 10% of all school districts in Texas. Niche.com gives it an A+ in diversity, an A- in employment, and an overall score of B+. Red Oak puts a lot of emphasis on preparing students for their next steps after graduation. They have partnerships with the Texas State Technical College, which, okay, I realize that's a big mouthful, Texas State Technical College, but it's located right in tiny Red Oak. They also have partnerships with the UT Arlington and Navarro College in Ellis County. Now, what's cool about these partnerships is high school students can earn an associate's degree through like Navarro College that UT Arlington will guarantee to accept. So tiny little Red Oak has this beautiful segue from high school to community college to university, right? So Red Oak ISD is seriously committed to their students. Okay, moving on, let's talk about jobs in Red Oak. Red Oak is the home for an impressive portfolio of industries and businesses. I mean, we're talking Triumph Aerospace, Bombardier Aerospace, and Compass Data Centers. They also have national freight industries and multiple banking and finance institutions. Something else to consider are jobs in the medical field. Red Oak is just a 10-minute drive to the Baylor Scott and White Medical Center. Okay, so now we've talked about education and we've talked about jobs. How about my favorite subject, housing? I mentioned before that Red Oak welcomes the master plan communities. That's going to continue to encourage exponential growth for Red Oak, especially in a housing shortage where buyers don't have many choices. The Harmony subdivision is an example of this. It's reasonably affordable, and it's just this massive sprawling subdivision. It has a beautiful common area in the middle with a giant field where all the kids gather to play sports. It also has a playground and a community pool. Now, as you would expect, the yards are small in Harmony, but the common areas offer plenty of room to enjoy the great outdoors. In terms of home ownership, roughly 2/3 of the population own their own homes and around 1/3 are renting. The median home price in Red Oak is right around $316,000. Okay, now, turning the corner, let's talk about entertainment in Red Oak. Red Oak has some really nice parks. One you definitely won't want to miss is Watkins Park. It has a nice playground, a charming little duck pond, and some great walking trails. Red Oak also has a variety of community events, such as their big Founders Day event and some civics clubs. But, just being honest here, for the most part, if you really want to enjoy some entertainment, I-35 is going to get you there. Waxahachie is just to the south of Red Oak, and it has your movie theaters, more restaurant choices, and so on. Of course, if professional sports or arts and culture, if that's more your vibe, I-35 will get you there too. You're just going to be heading north instead of south. Okay, how about shopping and dining in Red Oak? Okay, there is a major hub along I-35 and Ovilla Road that has tons of dining opportunities. Now, many, if not most, are fast food, but still, this represents that small town Red Oak is doing some growing. In terms of shopping, there really isn't a whole lot. They do have a Walmart and a Brookshire's, but if you have a really long list, you're probably going to end up heading south into Waxahachie. Red Oak is quiet with a small town feel. There just isn't a whole lot of shopping. Now, fun fact about a commute, Red Oak is located within 25 minutes from 4 different interstate highways. You have I-35, I-20, I-45, and I-30. Let's talk a little bit about utilities in Red Oak. Red Oak water is actually supplied by a water line from the city of Dallas. What does that mean for Red Oak residents? Well, most residents are going to tell you that water is really expensive in Red Oak. Now, while we're on the topic of utilities, we should talk a bit about electricity. This isn't specific to Red Oak, but it still bears discussing. Did you know Texas is the only state with its own power grid? It is completely independent from other national networks. You know, where one state's decision may affect electricity markets in other states? Not in Texas. Electricity is also deregulated in Texas. Residents can shop for their electric provider and pick the best rates. Okay, if I were to describe Red Oak in a sentence or two, I would say it's a small town with a small town feel, but determined to grow. It has beautiful winding streets, rolling hills, and of course those gorgeous red oak trees. But the question is, what do you think? Do you think red oak might be a good fit for you? In any event, whether it ends up being Red Oak or any of the many other cities in the Dallas area, I'd love to help find the right community for you. And listen, if you found this information helpful, hop on over to my YouTube channel. You'll learn more about all the many gems the Metroplex has to offer. I don't know, like cities like Mansfield, Burleson, Kennedale. So many to choose from. And of course, while you're there, hit the subscribe button, click on that little bell, right? Don't be a stranger. Anyway, thank you so much again for watching and have a great day.